Well, hello everyone. Hope your group assessments are coming on nicely. What do I want to talk about in this little session was first I just want to recap your assessment, and then I want to talk a little bit about integrated marketing communications, most commonly known as IMC. So let me get started. Alright, as we know, it's worth 30%. It's due in about 3 weeks. Tad over 3 weeks. I've already had about 10 emails of people asking me, can we go over the 2,000 words if there's more than 2 people in the group? As usual, not a problem. Please don't write 52,000 words. I'm quite happy if you want to eke it out to 2,500, but try and stay under 3 if at all possible. Alright, I've added the link there to the blog where you can post it, so I'm going to provide this clip as well as the PowerPoint slides for you so you can activate all the hyperlinks. So basically what we want to do is work as our group, develop a well-researched commentary, as we call it, and provide examples of critical digital marketing strategy and tactical tools. So you've all got your topics, you've all got your groups, you all should know what you are doing by now regarding the questions. Regarding objectives, it focuses on your ability to critically evaluate key concepts and issues. In regards to critical evaluation, I've provided a clip, so if you want to just click on the images, there's a clip on what critical evaluation, critical analysis actually is, so you can kind of explore that a little bit, because I think one of the comments I made for your first assessment task was that a lot of you didn't really delve into what the motivations were for people taking a particular perspective. You really didn't look, you basically weren't critical enough, so you weren't skeptical about certain claims people were making, you didn't question enough. So this little clip goes for about 4 minutes. We'll give you a little idea on exactly, basically some little tips on how to better critically evaluate. It's not an academic piece, so it's actually really easy to absorb. Alright, so this is a potential structure. Obviously introduction, just give me a little bit of context of what it's about. So if you're doing viral marketing, when it emerged, who were the forefront people in viral marketing, give me a definition of it. Again, critical, so you need to analyze the definitions, not just accept them at face value. The marking guide, we've got, I highlighted the HDs because I'm hoping everyone gets close to this. I don't want to see anyone on the right hand side. I want everybody on this side, at least on the distinction credit side. So if you notice the words critical, and you got to make sure that your evaluations support for conclusion. So there needs to be some level of continuity throughout your argument. You can't just say one thing in one part and something different in another part. Hence, when you work in groups, I know you guys will go ahead and work on your own, but someone needs to be delegated the task of actually making sure it's coherent. You can't be arguing two different things in a single report. Again, there are theories out there that will help you provide logic and found your arguments. It's very important to find what those theories are and make sure you reference them. And as usual, make sure your referencing is on point. Make sure the structure is, good enough for me to understand. Don't make it skip. You don't have to follow the exact structure I've given you, as long as it makes sense. And spelling and grammar need to be on point. There was a few people that barely scraped by in the last assessment task on that one. I will get harsh. I'll basically make you rewrite it. So I'll give you a chance to resubmit one assessment task. No one's needed to take up that option yet, but if you do, I'll allow you one, but make sure that you don't need any. Alright, so what are we here to talk about today? Integrated marketing communications. I spent 5 years doing my PhD on this topic. 5 very long and hard years. Typically, Textbooks, everyone really, all they really talk about when they talk about integration is integration to channels. Or now that social media and other digital media popped up, they talk about selecting the right platform or the right technology for what you're trying to do. I argued in my PhD, and I've argued in subsequent publications, and I've argued at international forums, and I've argued at international conferences that why? When did the channel suddenly become the primo when it comes to integrated marketing communications? Doesn't make sense to me at all, actually. A lot of people go, I need to use Facebook. Why? It's like, oh, because people there. Well, it's got nothing to do with the channel then. The channel is a subset of something. So what I've argued, and I've now been published in A-star journals with this idea, is that we should be looking at integrating meanings. And what do I mean by meanings? Well, people don't seek out things just to get information for the sake of it. It's meaningful to them. They want it to connect with an idea that they've got, or they want to solve a problem, or they're looking to enhance something. The meanings that we create through verbal, through visuals, they're surrounding us all the time. They relate to a specific part of our existence. So when we go to select the channel to integrate, so everything's the same, we need to have the same message. People say we need to integrate our message. Well, why? Different people will go to different places to seek out different things for different reasons. Why should everything be the same? Why should we focus on channels? So let me talk a little bit more about that. If we focus on how meanings are made, so how the words and the images we use combined with the platforms we select to communicate, combined with our understanding of our audience and understanding of our stakeholders, all combined, and if we integrate that, it's going to be a far more powerful activity rather than just focusing on the channels. What that allows us to do is that channels not only become a strategic part of a larger objective, they can also be tailored. Rather than us reacting to them, we can actually strategically align them with various different strategies. Now let me give you an example. A lot of you use the Share a Coke campaign. A lot of you use the Share a Coke campaign in your assessment one. Now, a lot of you argued that it was powerful. You gave me a whole bunch of stats. This many bottles were sold, this many of these. Don't really care. What was powerful about that is how Coke communicated with who they wanted to communicate. They put the name on a can. The can itself became a distribution outlet for meaning because people had an emotional connection with the can. It's only an inanimate object that holds poison, but people felt connected to it. It became a point of meaning. When they shared that on Facebook, they weren't going to Facebook to share. They were sharing something that was meaningful to them. They were sharing the fact that they felt valued by a brand, which was manipulating them to make more money, but that's half the point really with marketing. So the channel selected was almost meaningless compared to the meaning that was trying to be established. So if we focus on how words, how our voice conveys emotion, how imagery can spark an emotional and elicit different types of responses, and then we start thinking about what avenues can we actually exercise to take advantage of those. Twitter as a platform, as a channel, was quite powerful when it hit in 2011 and rose to prominence in 2012 because it allowed short, sharp messages. Now, it had little to do with the channel because you could do the same thing on Facebook. You could do it across many different channels actually, but Twitter was so powerful because it created a culture in it. And that culture itself created meaning as well because people knew that if you wanted to deliver messages quickly to a mass amount of people, Twitter was the place to go. But people actually reshaped how they spoke and how they composed messages within Twitter. We saw people use abbreviations, we saw people develop characters specifically for that platform. Now, it's very important to understand that the platform reshapes language, and then the language reshapes the platform, because as time went on, something like Twitter, because people were yearning to share images more and short clips, Twitter I think bought Vines, and they allowed images to be shared. So the platform itself was rearranged by the types of meanings people wanted to convey. It wasn't the channel that was dictating, it was actually the people using it. Any evolution that occurred was pushed by people using it. So when we start thinking about what channels do I need to select, the better question is, what sort of people do I want to connect to? What sort of messages do they want? And then you can start thinking about the culture of the channel. So they're platforms where people exchange meanings. They're not just channels where you push out information. And I know a lot of people were talking about in their first assessment task that it's about two-way communication. You have to let go of this notion of two-way communication as well. It's network communication. Even communication between two people can still be felt by third parties. Whether it's a hashtag, whether that two-way communication is happening on an open platform like Facebook, for example, where other people are reading it, that those meanings are being shaped not by the two people involved in the conversation, but the community and the society in which it operates. Our reference point for all meaning isn't what happens in our brains, it's the social understanding, because unless other people understand our communication, it's not communication. So we don't just create messages, and we don't just use channels that benefit us. We develop them in relationship to the society or to the community that we're trying to convey. So meanings are both shaped by society. Meanings reshape language and reshape how modes of communication are used, and they reshape how channels are actually developed and actually how they evolve. So we have to put aside this notion of information-centric notions, and we have to put aside this notion that a channel is simply a vehicle of a message to pass through. They're not. They're actually an entity that intersects with other entities, and we have to look at them as they're alive, not simply inanimate objects that we can shoot things through. So we also have to understand integrated communication as a form of context of culture. So as I've already said, we have to understand how culture uses different modes to communicate, how different channels are communicated. We have to situate them within a particular context, and we also have to integrate them not only between the modes of communication and the channels and how people perceive something should be composed in order to convey a particular meaning, but we actually also have to think about what people will do with those messages, because messages today in a digital frame are not static. They can be shifted. People in Twitter could add their own handles, retweet it. On Facebook they could have a comment and then repost. So that comment above will reshape the original message. It might say, look at this wanker, or how amazing is this? So they will add their own meaning to it. So that the channel, again, doesn't remain static. It's even reshaped once it's been sent out. So we have to be really, really mindful that channel selection isn't channel selection. It's a space where meanings will be conveyed and reshaped continually. So I want you to go to Flipgrid, and I want you to answer a very, very specific question. What is the advantage of incorporating a meaning-based mindset when it comes to channel selection rather than information-based approach when it comes to channel selection? So I'll leave you with that thought, and I look forward to watching some of your clips on Flipgrid. Thanks very much.